Oops, we forgot your seat. My sister giggled, not even looking me in the eye as she adjusted her veil. My mother didn't offer a chair either. She just pointed toward the exit and whispered, "It's better if you leave quietly, sweetie. You're ruining the aesthetic." Everyone in the room waited for me to break down. They expected tears, a dramatic scene, or a desperate plea to stay. Instead, I just smiled, smoothed down my dress, and said, "Don't worry. Looks like we both forgot something." I walked out of that glass ballroom into the cool evening air, took a seat in my car, and pulled out my phone. I wasn't leaving. I was just getting started. Before the cake was cut, my sister was in tears, my mother was panicked, and the groom was demanding answers. Follow my story to the end, and comment below the city you're watching from so I can see how far my story has reached. My name is Chloe, I'm 27 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I've been invisible in my own family. My younger sister, Vanessa, was born with an uncanny ability to get whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted it. If she cried, our mother gave her the world. If I succeeded, it was treated like an expected obligation. By the time I hit my mid-20s, I'd built a stable life for myself, running a successful boutique event logistics firm. Vanessa, on the other hand, at 24, was still floating through life, treating our parents' savings like an endless piggy bank. So when Vanessa announced her engagement to an heir from a remarkably wealthy family, the household went into full overdrive. My mother practically made it her life's mission to throw the most extravagant wedding Sacramento had ever seen. The only problem? Their grand vision far exceeded their actual budget. That's where I came in. For 6 exhausting months, I stepped up behind the scenes, using my industry connections, covering massive vendor deposits, and coordinating the intricate details to make Vanessa's dream day a reality. I didn't do it for praise. I did it because I foolishly believed that supporting my sister on her biggest day would finally make me feel like part of the family. I had no idea that while I was busy building her fairy tale, she and my mother were already planning to wipe me out of the picture entirely. The morning of the wedding, the air inside the grand estate venue was thick with tension. As I stepped through the arched glass entrance, I immediately felt a shift. When I asked the coordinator for my program, I opened it only to find my name entirely absent from the family registry. I brushed it off, telling myself it was a printing typo. But then I walked into the bridal suite. My assigned bridesmaid dress, a deep navy gown I'd bought with my own money, was hanging on a rack with a tag bearing the name of one of Vanessa's college friends. When I asked Vanessa about it, she didn't even turn around from the vanity mirror. "Oh, we had to rebalance the aesthetic of the bridal party, Chloe. You understand, right? You look so much better in a classic guest outfit anyway." I swallowed my pride, changed into my own cocktail dress, and sat through the ceremony near the back. But the true humiliation was waiting at the reception. When the double doors opened to the grand ballroom, guests flooded in to find their assigned tables. I scanned the seating chart, but my name wasn't listed anywhere. I walked over to table 12, where my parents and extended family were gathering around a beautifully decorated circular table. There were 11 chairs. My mother glanced up, her eyes cold and transactional, before leaning in close so the surrounding guests wouldn't hear. "Oops, we forgot your seat." Vanessa giggled from the head table, not even looking me in the eye as she adjusted her veil. My mother didn't offer to pull up a chair either. She pointed me toward the exit and whispered, "It's better if you leave quietly, sweetie. We ran out of space, and you're ruining the aesthetic in front of the groom's parents." I walked out into the cool evening air, the sound of muffled music and laughter fading behind the heavy glass doors. Walking toward my car in the parking lot, my heels clicking against the pavement, a cold wave of clarity washed over me. For years, I had allowed my family to treat me like a convenience, someone to fix their messes and absorb their disrespect. But sitting in the quiet driver's seat, gripping the steering wheel, my sadness transformed into something sharp and undeniable. They thought I was just an inconvenient guest they could discard once the heavy lifting was done. What they had completely forgotten, in their rush to project flawless perfection, was who actually made this entire evening possible. Vanessa's grand wedding wasn't just planned by me, it was legally tied to me. Because my mother's credit cards had been declined months ago during vendor setup, I had used my own business accounts with my event firm to secure the permits and high-end contracts. The breathtaking custom projection lighting display illuminating the ballroom walls, booked under my name. The signature multi-course catering upgrade that Vanessa bragged about to her wealthy in-laws, authorized through my corporate line. Even the master media release for the venue's main stage was registered under my credentials. They thought they had swept me out the door, but in reality, they had just kicked out the sole operator of their entire production. I pulled my laptop from the back seat, opened a mobile hotspot, and pulled up my client portal. I wasn't going to cause a loud scene inside or smash any glasses. I didn't need to. Professional logistics contracts have very specific clauses, and one of them clearly stated that the primary account holder, the person whose line of credit was on the line, had to be present on site for high-tier service execution and final liability approval. With a few precise taps, I logged into the master management dashboard. I selected the custom ambient lighting system, the signature gourmet catering add-ons, and the main venue audio-visual credentials. Because I was officially recorded as removed from site by the primary host, I hit the button to revoke personal authorization for those non-essential luxury tiers, reverting the venue strictly to the basic base package. Next, I dialed the venue's lead coordinator. Her voice was frantic when she picked up, but I kept mine smooth and entirely professional.
Hi, Sarah.
This is Chloe. As per Clause 4 of my business service agreement, since I've been asked to leave the premises, my personal corporate accounts can no longer underwrite the upgraded services tonight. Please execute the service freeze immediately. She gasped, realizing the implications, but contractually, her hands were tied. I closed my laptop, packed my bag, and walked across the street to a charming lit bistro. I ordered a hot cappuccino, took a seat near the window, and looked out at the venue entrance across the avenue. The show was about to begin. From my cozy window seat at the bistro, it didn't take long for the dominoes to start falling. It began with the lighting. The Grand Ballroom's custom projection system, the one casting romantic, shimmering starlight across the tall ceilings, suddenly snapped off, replaced by the stark, sterile overhead venue bulbs. Through the floor-to-ceiling glass, I could see the sudden shift in mood as guests blinked in the harsh light. Next came the meal service. Without my corporate account underwriting the gourmet multi-course upgrade, the staff seamlessly reverted to the absolute base package. Instead of the delicate filet mignon and glazed salmon Vanessa had bragged about on the invitations, the servers began placing basic garden salads and simple chicken plates in front of the groom's high society family. Then came the grand reveal. The DJ's voice echoed over a crackling bass line as he tried to cue up the custom entrance track and high-definition photo slideshow. But without the master AV authorization, the screen stayed pitch black and the audio system glitched into silence. The polished, million-dollar aesthetic Vanessa and my mother had obsessed over was disintegrating in real time, replaced by the plain reality of what they had actually paid for themselves. From across the street, I watched as panic rippled through Table 12. My mother stood up frantically, waving her hands at the catering manager, while Vanessa stared in sheer horror at the dim room and unimpressed guests. They were finally realizing that the invisible sister they threw out was the only thing holding their entire illusion together. My phone on the bistro table began buzzing continuously. First came a deluge of furious text messages from my mother, accusing me of sabotaging my own sister's special day. Then came the phone calls from Vanessa, her tone shifting rapidly from explosive anger to sheer, hyperventilating desperation. When I didn't answer, I saw the two of them burst through the venue's front doors, frantically scanning the street until they spotted me through the bistro window. They practically sprinted across the avenue, heels clicking loudly on the pavement. Vanessa marched inside, her mascara running down her face, while my mother looked ready to faint. "What did you do?" Vanessa shrieked, drawing glances from the quiet bistro patrons. "Fix it right now, Chloe. You're ruining my wedding." I calmly set my cup down. I didn't sabotage anything. I simply removed my personal corporate authorization after you made it clear I wasn't a guest. Before my mother could launch into another lecture about family duty, the groom, Julian, walked into the bistro, looking thoroughly confused. He had followed them outside. "What is going on?" he asked, looking between us. Why did the catering drop? And why is the venue saying our luxury package was canceled? That was the moment I laid everything out. In front of Julian, I explained that I had personally funded and authorized the lie to him about paying for the grand event herself. Vanessa dissolved into tears, begging me to call the coordinator and restore the service, but I just grabbed my coat. You wanted a wedding without me, I said softly. Now you have one. High-end upgrades because my family couldn't afford them, only to be kicked out so I wouldn't ruin the aesthetic. Julian turned to Vanessa, his face pale with shock as he realized she had. I left the bistro without looking back, leaving the chaos behind me. In the weeks that followed, the fallout from that night continued to ripple through my family. Julian's parents, who were deeply traditional, were mortified by the deception and the way my mother and sister had treated me. The trust between Vanessa and her new in-laws was severely fractured before the honeymoon even began. Meanwhile, because I had officially revoked my personal authorization, the vendor contract strictly honored my corporate terms, and I received full legal refunds for every single upgraded service I had personally funded. With that money, I officially cut financial ties with my family and set firm, unbreakable boundaries. I channeled my energy into expanding my event firm, transforming it into one of the most sought-after agencies in the region. Looking back, getting kicked out of that ballroom was the best thing that ever happened to me. It forced me to stop begging for a seat at a table where I was never truly respected and instead build my own life on my own terms. If you were in my shoes, would you have done the same thing? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to tell me which city you're watching from. If you enjoyed this story, check out the 2 videos on your screen right now for more crazy real-life drama. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.